Imagine you've spent years building this incredibly beautiful, high-performance sports car.
Oh, I can picture it.
Right. You've sourced the absolute best parts, you've tuned the engine to perfection, and you've polished the exterior until it just
A
gleams.
masterpiece.
Exactly. It's objectively a masterpiece of modern engineering.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you finish it, you park it in a dark, locked garage, and you just leave it there permanently.
Safe from getting scratched, sure, but completely unseen.
Yeah. And no one, not your friends, not professional racing scouts, literally nobody knows how fast that car can actually go because they never see it on the track.
Which completely defeats the purpose of building it.
Exactly. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are thrilled you're joining us because today we're dismantling a lie that so many of us, especially women, have been sold for years.
A really damaging lie, honestly.
It is. It's the lie that simply doing exceptional work is enough to get you promoted.
Yeah, it's an incredibly pervasive myth. I mean, we grow up believing that meritocracy is this, perfect system.
Right.
You put your head down, you deliver flawless results, and the powers that be will just magically recognize your brilliance and reward you.
Like they have a sixth sense for it or something.
Exactly. But relying on that belief costs professionals a tremendous amount of career capital. And, as we'll see today, life-altering amounts of actual financial capital, too.
So we're pulling our insights today from Chapter 6 of the book, The Mistakes Women Make That Are Holding Them Back.
Yeah.
And the chapter is aptly titled, Waiting to be Noticed Instead of Being Loud.
Such a great title.
It really is. So our mission for you today is basically threefold. First, we're going to explore why visibility, not just performance, is the absolute strongest predictor of advancement.
Mm-hmm.
Second, we're going to examine the deeply gendered social conditioning that keeps so many talented people quiet. And finally, we're going to equip you with a concrete daily routine to make your work completely unmissable.
We're basically getting that sports car out of the dark garage today.
Yes. But to get the car out, we have to understand the psychological locks on the garage door, right?
Oh, absolutely. We have to look at this fundamental, almost moral belief that keeping your head down and letting the results speak for themselves is the righteous path to success.
Right, the noble way to work.
Exactly. But the core insight from the text here is really striking. It says that in most organizations, the loudest voice in the room is not always the most competent.
Oh, we all know that person.
We definitely do. But, and this is the kicker, that person is almost always the most promoted.
Which is just such a frustrating reality to accept. But I guess it makes sense when you consider the baseline of corporate expectations. Because good work isn't the ceiling, it's the floor.
That is the defining shift in perspective right there. Every competent professional in your organization does good work.
Because that's literally why they were hired.
Exactly. It's the entry requirement.
Hmm.
What separates the people who rise to the executive level from the people who, well, stagnate in middle management isn't the quality of their output.
What is it then?
It's the visibility of their contribution, the intentionality of their relationships, and the absolute clarity with which they communicate their ambition.
Okay, but we can't just chalk this up to differing personality types, right? Like, this isn't just about extroverts naturally having an easier time in corporate America.
No, not at all.
Because this behavior is rooted in deeply gendered social rules that we absorb when we're little kids. I mean, young girls are frequently taught that self-promotion is arrogance. It's, showing off.
While boys demonstrating that exact same behavior are praised for being confident and assertive.
Right.
And this creates a severe double standard that carries right into the boardroom. Internalizing this causes young women to reflexively downplay their wins. They deflect compliments and aggressively credit their teams.
Even when they objectively need to claim the credit personally to establish their own authority.
Yes, it really twists the idea of humility.
Oh, I totally agree. Because humility is a wonderful virtue. It's
Thanks.
knowing your limits and staying grounded. But invisibility is so often mistaken for humility.
Wow, that's a great way to put it.
Systematically erasing your own contributions so you don't seem pushy isn't a virtue. It's a career handicap dressed up as one.
And this behavior is reinforced by a very real fear of being labeled a difficult woman. Research consistently shows that women who self-promote are often perceived less favorably than men who do the same.
So we know this, whether consciously or subconsciously, and we hold back.
Exactly. We soften our language. We wait for someone else to point out our achievements.
Okay, let's unpack a specific scenario here to really wrap our heads around this. Let's say a woman is universally beloved by her team.
Okay.
She's selfless, she jumps in to help everyone, she remembers everyone's birthday, and her work is flawless. Shouldn't that natural warmth and peer respect automatically translate to leadership spotting her potential?
You would think so.
Right. If everyone loves working with her, a promotion should be totally inevitable.
What's fascinating about that scenario is how we conflate being liked with being advanced.
So interesting.
Yeah, being beloved by your team makes you a wonderful colleague.
Right.
But the qualities that make you highly likable, agreeableness, constant selflessness, endless warmth, are rarely the qualities that signal executive leadership potential.
To the people actually holding the power.
Exactly. To advance, you need to be respected, which requires visibility and unapologetic intentionality. You can be warm, but you cannot be hidden.
Wow. And that plays right into the readiness gap, too.
Oh, big time.
Women often wait to feel 100% ready, completely qualified, before raising their hand for a stretch assignment. While men will look at a job description, hit maybe 60% of the criteria, jump in, and just figure the rest out on the fly.
Which creates a compounding advantage.
Mhm.
The person who jumps in at 60% gets the on-the-job experience that eventually makes them fully qualified.
While the person waiting to be 100% qualified gets stuck in a perpetual waiting room. So I am thoroughly convinced that waiting is a terrible strategy. But I really want to look at the tangible fallout here. Because waiting isn't just some abstract career stall. It has a literal price tag.
It absolutely does.
What is the actual mathematical cost of waiting to be noticed?
Let's look at a brilliant A/B test provided in our source material. It's the case study of Zara and James.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So they both start at the same company in the same year on the exact same team. They have the exact same baseline talent, education, and ability. And they both deliver incredibly strong results.
So basically all variables are equal except for how they handle their own visibility.
Correct. James operates with extreme intentionality from day one. He speaks up in every senior meeting, even if he only has a half-formed thought.
Just to get his voice in the room.
Right. He sends his manager a weekly wins email. He proactively schedules coffees with directors outside his department. And crucially, he asks for a high-profile stretch assignment just 6 months into his tenure.
And then we have Zara.
Yes. Zara is the one staying late to ensure the project is flawless, but she assumes her pristine results will do the talking.
Because she's avoiding looking pushy.
Exactly. So she doesn't send updates, she doesn't ask for the stretch assignment, and she just waits for management to tap her on the shoulder.
So what happens?
The timeline of their divergence is brutal. By year 3, James is promoted to senior manager. Zara remains at the same grade.
Ouch.
And by year 5, James's salary is 28% higher than Zara's.
Wait, a 28% gap in just 5 years? For doing the exact same quality of work?
Yes. And by year 10, James is officially positioned in the executive leadership pipeline. Zara, meanwhile, is described by the organization as, quote, valued.
Oof. Value. That is such a loaded corporate code word.
It really is.
It usually means like a highly talented woman who does the foundational work keeping the department running, but who the company has absolutely no intention of ever promoting.
Spot on. And let's contextualize that 28% salary gap. That isn't just a one-time bonus.
Right.
When you apply the principle of compound interest to a career trajectory, a 28% gap at year 5 snowballs over a 30-year career. It represents hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost earnings, diminished pension contributions, and lost investment potential.
That is life-altering money. I mean, it's a mortgage. It's early retirement.
It's massive.
But I have to push back here because this scenario actually makes me kind of angry at the manager. Doesn't management bear the responsibility?
Oh, for sure.
If the manager already knows Zara is doing flawless work, why is the burden entirely on her to shout about her wins? Isn't it a leader's job to spot quiet talent?
That is a very fair frustration. Yes, the system is fundamentally flawed, and yes, managers should be much better at identifying quiet competence.
So what do we do about it?
Well, the source material doesn't sugarcoat this. It acknowledges that this dynamic is entirely unfair. But knowing a system is flawed is just the first step to navigating it. Boycotting self-promotion out of some righteous principle doesn't force the corporate system to change. It just guarantees that you lose out on those hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow. Yeah, you can't pay your mortgage with the moral high ground.
Exactly.
If the rules of the game are that visibility wins, we have to learn how to be visible. But that brings up my biggest fear.
What's that?
Well, I don't want to lose that money, obviously, but I also cringe at the idea of becoming the loud, obnoxious office braggart who just takes credit for everything.
Right, nobody wants to be that person.
How do you step into the light without feeling like a total fraud?
That is where the concept of strategic visibility comes in. Strategic visibility is deliberate, authentic, and professional.
Okay.
It is completely divorced from talking over people or arrogant bragging. It's simply the learnable skill of making your contributions and your ambitions known to the people who hold the power to advance you.
Okay, let's walk through what this actually looks like in a daily routine. Because instead of just a random list of tools, this really breaks down into habits you can build into your week.
Yes, very practical steps.
Starting with morning meetings. The guidance is to make a habit of speaking first.
The underlying psychology of speaking early in a meeting is fascinating. When you are the first or second person to speak, you benefit from the anchoring effect.
Meaning what, exactly?
You set the intellectual tone for the room. Human psychology naturally defers to the people who establish the initial parameters of a conversation.
Yeah.
We perceive them as more confident and senior.
And you don't even need a fully formed thesis to do this, do you?
Not at all.
You can simply say something like, I'd like to open with a thought on how this impacts our timeline. You're just getting your voice into the room early, so you aren't fighting to break into the conversation 40 minutes later when the dynamic is already set.
Exactly. Then we move to a weekly habit. The Friday afternoon wins summary.
Oh, this is my favorite concept from the entire deep dive.
It's so effective. It's a brief, highly professional email you send your manager detailing what you completed, the metrics you hit, and what you were tackling next.
Sending that weekly wins email is like handing your manager a literal cheat sheet. You are spoon-feeding them the exact bullet points they need when they walk into closed-door talent review meetings.
Yes.
Because managers are busy, they don't remember everything you did on Tuesday. You are doing the heavy lifting for them so they can easily advocate for you in rooms you don't have access to.
You are equipping your advocates. And another crucial habit is claiming credit, clearly and gracefully. When your idea is praised, you have to own it.
I struggle with this constantly. If someone praises a project, my default reflex is to say, oh, we just kind of figured it out together.
Right.
Even if I built the entire framework from scratch over the weekend.
Deflection is a hard habit to break.
Yeah.
A better script is simply, I'm glad that direction resonated. That came from the foundational research I did last week.
That's good.
It's polite, it's collaborative in tone, but it firmly sets the record straight about the origin of the value.
I have to admit, though, there's another habit recommended here that makes me physically uncomfortable just thinking about it.
The brag document.
Yes, building a brag document. The idea of keeping a private running list of every single win, every moved metric, and every piece of positive feedback just feels incredibly arrogant to me, even if no one else sees it.
I get that. Try reframing it. It isn't a monument to your ego. It is simple data collection.
Data collection.
Yes. Human memory is fallible, especially under the stress of an annual performance review. If you don't track your own metrics, you will forget them. That document is your empirical armor against imposter syndrome.
Wow.
When you feel like you aren't doing enough, you look at the data. And when review season comes, your success is undeniable and fully documented.
Data collection. That completely removes the emotional weight from it. Okay, so we have our meeting habits and our documentation. But we also need to look at broader career arcs like building relationships. We need to seek out sponsors, not just mentors.
The distinction there is vital. A mentor talks to you. They give you advice over coffee.
Right.
A sponsor talks about you. They are a senior leader who spends their political capital to go to bat for you when you are not in the room.
And how do you build that?
By raising your hand for visible, high-profile assignments that cross their desk, ensuring your competence is directly impacting their goals.
And your visibility shouldn't just live inside the walls of your current company either. Building an external brand is just as important.
Oh, definitely.
Getting active on LinkedIn, speaking at industry events, publishing articles. A professional who is recognized as an expert in her broader industry is much harder for her own company to overlook.
And she inherently holds far more negotiating power because her options are visible.
All of these habits form the written and structural toolkit. But the source material emphasizes that visibility is also highly physical and energetic. It requires taking up literal physical space.
This part is so important.
It blew my mind. The simple act of where you choose to sit. The recommendation is to always sit at the main table, not in the overflow chairs lining the edges of the room.
The mechanism behind this is rooted in our nervous systems. Being central is a visual signal to the room about your authority, yes. But more importantly, claiming that physical territory lowers your own stress response.
Really?
Yeah, it changes your posture, which opens up your breathing, which regulates your cortisol. It physically primes you to participate as an equal.
Which flows right into taking up verbal space. We have to eliminate word-level acts of shrinking.
Those reflexive apologies and qualifiers.
Yes. Starting a sentence with, sorry, just quickly, or this might be a silly question.
Those phrases actively prime the room to take your contribution less seriously before you've even made your point.
We have to trust that our contribution is worthy of the air it occupies. And when someone inevitably interrupts, because it will happen, we have to hold our ground.
The script for this is brilliant.
It is just a calm, firm, I'd like to finish my point. It's not aggressive. It's just boundary setting.
And you pair that boundary with deliberate eye contact with the most senior person in the room. This ensures that the decision makers are registering your contribution and your authority in that moment.
But taking up space also means dealing with the immense discomfort of stating your ambition out loud.
Which is terrifying for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. The reality is that many professionals have private dreams and private timelines for their careers, and they just hope someone will magically deduce what they want.
Which is exactly how years disappear into that valued category we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
In a one-to-one with your manager, you cannot drop hints. You have to be explicit.
What's the script for that?
You say, I'm aiming for this specific role within the next 18 months. I'd love your guidance on what I need to demonstrate to get there, and I'd appreciate your support in advocating for me.
It forces a real conversation about your trajectory. But okay, what happens when you do all this? You state your ambition, you raise your hand, you do the flawless work, and you still get passed over for the promotion.
Well, being passed over is not the end of the conversation. It is the beginning of a much more important one. Disappointment is just information.
You don't just retreat back into the garage and lock the door.
Exactly.
Huh.
The instinct is to go quiet and just work twice as hard to prove them wrong. Instead, you use the rejection to gather data.
Right.
You go to the decision maker and say, I was disappointed not to be selected. I'd value your honest feedback on what would have made me a stronger candidate and what specific metrics I should be hitting to be ready for the next opportunity.
Wow. A woman who unapologetically takes up space, who states her ambition clearly, and who calmly asks for feedback after a rejection isn't being difficult. She is being deeply, profoundly professional.
Absolutely.
The discomfort you feel doing these things isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong or being arrogant. It's just the growing pain of unlearning years of conditioning that taught you to make yourself smaller.
But that brings up a very valid concern for anyone who identifies as naturally shy or deeply introverted.
Right, because this sounds exhausting.
You might be wondering, do I have to fundamentally change my personality to do all of this?
Right.
Do I have to become exhaustingly performative?
Yes. How do we reframe this so it doesn't feel like a daily draining theatrical performance for someone who hates the spotlight?
Well, visibility is a strategy. It is not a personality type. You do not need to suppress your true nature. Think of the difference between a foghorn and a lighthouse.
Oh, I love that. A foghorn versus a lighthouse.
A foghorn is loud, abrasive, and demands attention through sheer volume. A lighthouse is quiet, but it is entirely unmissable because of its strategic position and its consistent brightness.
Okay, so if you are introverted, be a lighthouse.
Exactly. Build your visibility through thoughtful, synthesized writing. Send an incredibly insightful email summarizing a complex meeting to a senior leader.
Nice.
Or, if you are highly collaborative, build your visibility by being the ultimate connector. The person who visibly and publicly champions their team's successes. That makes you an indispensable leader without requiring you to shout.
And for the deeply results-oriented listeners who just want their work to matter.
Let the numbers speak, but translate those numbers into the language of business impact. Don't just say, I finished the project. Say, my work generated X result, which directly contributed Y to the organization's quarterly goals.
This captures the ultimate insight of our deep dive today. The goal is never to become the loudest person in the room. The goal is to become unmissable in the rooms that matter.
Beautifully said.
Volume is just about noise. Unmissability is about intention, consistency, and strategic relationship building. Volume is completely optional. Intention is not.
We've covered a lot of ground today. We busted the myth that good work alone will magically propel you upward. We looked at the compounding financial reality of Zora versus James, proving that avoiding visibility isn't a noble sacrifice. It's just a wildly expensive mistake.
And we walked through the practical habits to change that trajectory. Anchoring meetings by speaking early, spoon-feeding advocacy through weekly wins emails, claiming credit gracefully, treating the brag document as data collection, taking up physical space, and acting as a lighthouse rather than a foghorn.
The key now is application. Small, consistent actions are how the muscle of visibility is built over time.
So we want to leave you with some immediate action steps that you can take this week.
Let's do it.
First, start that data collection. Open a note on your phone right now and write down 3 things you've accomplished in the last 90 days that you haven't fully claimed credit for. Second, commit to speaking in the first 5 minutes of your very next meeting, even if it's just to agree with and amplify someone else's point to set that intellectual tone.
Yes.
And third, draft that first short professional weekly wins email to your manager for this Friday.
It takes 10 minutes, but it completely changes how your manager perceives your trajectory.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've established that visibility is a learned skill, and when you utilize it, it compounds dramatically over a single career, yielding massive financial and professional rewards for you personally.
It changes your individual life.
But imagine the macro effect. Think about the broader workplace culture. What happens when an entire generation of highly competent, brilliant women decides to stop waiting?
That's a powerful thought.
What happens when they not only step into the light themselves, but actively start teaching these exact strategies to the younger women coming up right behind them?
The whole system shifts.
How quickly does that toxic, loudest voice wins culture completely break down when the truly competent voices finally decide to make themselves undeniably unmissable together? It's time to open the garage doors, get those cars on the track. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.